We are Gold Ivy, a health company dedicated to simplifying health and wellness. The industry is lacking the honest experience and grit required to overcome the struggle, and we're here to fill that gap.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold. Join us on the fearless pursuit of self-discovery and growth.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
A Gold Ivy production.
Hello, hello. Welcome back. You are listening to Ivy Unleashed. We are so grateful, as always, that you guys are here listening with us today. And as you can see, we are not alone. Woo! We have our first guest in studio joining us today. Everyone, please welcome Nicki Lemmon.
Hi, everyone. I love that beat. How fun.
And I love, if you're watching, that you can see that she's wearing gold and just looking like a ray of sunshine, just like she is.
Yes. So who is Nicki? Let's give this girl a formal introduction.
Oh, I love it. So Nicki, I know Nicki is like an old coworker, friend, and she changed my life with yoga. I hated yoga before I met you. And when I came to her first class, my first class with her, I was like, Nicki, I tried yoga. It was hot. It was sweaty. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what I was doing. It felt like people were judging me. I didn't know what was happening. And she was like, I got you. And it was so nice because I could tell that you were trying not to make me like it was really obvious, but you were totally like coming near me, getting close to make sure I felt supported. And it's just crazy because I thought that it was so much about like getting into a wild pose, and you showed me it is so much more than that. And it was just like what I needed. I was running marathons and I was like, this isn't a real workout. And then I learned from your classes that it's an absolute total strength training and balance and flexibility and all kinds of things. And after being in your yoga classes, I got faster.
Yes.
And mentally tougher. And it was wild. And I was like, as I'm getting older, this will probably get harder and I'll probably slow down. And I was like, nope, with yoga, I swear this is like, it's like I have steroids or something now. It's like so much faster.
Yes. You were one of my first athletes I worked with.
Really?
Yes. I'm so proud. And I bring you with me everywhere I go in my mind. I do. Now I've worked with thousands of athletes. So it's been fun.
So obviously yoga instructor.
Yes.
That's why we brought you on here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into yoga? We know you got a lot of credentials. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yes. I was an athlete as I was growing up, very competitive. My dad used to say, go to school for something that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And so I went for exercise physiology to the University of Minnesota, actually kinesiology. Got off track a little bit. And then found my way through Lululemon, actually, working for Lululemon. I was really surrounded with yoga in the yoga world. I ended up actually working at Red Brick. And then they paid for my education, and I just kept getting credentials. And I started actually the first time I ever took yoga was at Lifetime Fitness. And I remember feeling when I went through it, I felt athletic and strong, but I remember looking around mentally and I'm like, what in the heck is everyone doing? And I felt so lost mentally. And then you learn that there's only a certain amount of postures. And so eventually you kind of learn them, and then they are just in different flows, really.
Yeah.
But since then I've gotten, I think 9 different certifications, something like that. And I teach in different countries. I specialize with athletes, which is my favorite. Helping people grow to their peak, be their best self.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you tie that in the classes too, where you're explaining the poses or you're showing them. But as you're doing it, I think it's like something about yoga. I think if you've never done it or if you're thinking about it, you think about judgment. Like, who's going to judge me? What should I wear? What's this going to be like? And you just made it so easy to relax in there, where I didn't feel like anybody was looking at me. I felt more like, you would address that, we're all in our head right now. We all have thoughts coming through. We all have these feelings that are uncomfortable, and we have, so much going on in our mind right now. And I think just acknowledging that in the class and just putting it out there, it was like, oh yeah, everybody is feeling the same way that I'm feeling too.
Yes. And it doesn't matter how many times you've been on your mat, there's something new that comes up that can throw you off. That's kind of the point of it all. And so that breath is your guide always. It keeps you on the straight line in the studio, but outside of the studio too.
Yeah, it sounds so simple, like breathing, but it's hard to even remember to breathe, especially when you're uncomfortable.
And being an athlete, it's not something that they teach you. I mean, you being a runner, I was a dancer, but also, you know, got into running and exercise. And the first time my experience with yoga, I hated the way I talk to myself, and you really hear the way you speak to yourself, and you're so worried about everyone else watching you. And I remember the first time I did yoga, it was like, no one's paying attention to me. Like everyone's just worried about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's fighting kind of this inner dialogue that you're having within yourself. So I'm curious, what's your experience with athletes? Because I feel like that's just a whole different ballgame for athletes to get into yoga.
It is. And athletes always think initially that they won't need a water bottle. It's kind of a funny thing. They show up and think it's just stretching. And so, they show up and we work hard. And then some of them, they say that wasn't yoga. And it was, yeah. I had an athlete pass out one time in that through yoga, breathing really hard. It can be pretty intense depending on the format. There's a lot of formats which we can go into, but, and the first responder said to the medic when he came, she was just doing yoga. So it's something else. It's not blood sugar or anything, you know? And I'm like, oh no, hold on. It was very much intense what she was doing. And it very much could be because she didn't have breakfast and she didn't have blood sugar. So it's been great. I've worked with different professional athletes, all different from professional BMXers to professional football players. Lots of high school teams, some baseball players that nailed home runs after we did breath work, low injuries. So lots of really amazing stories like your running story. But I also work with retirement populations and people that are brand new to yoga at resorts when I go and teach. So I do teach a lot of different types of people. So it's not just athletes, but everyone. It's for everyone, always.
And why? What is it about yoga that is so great?
Yeah. So in America, we tend to think it's about 20% physical, right? So we think about what we call the asanas in yoga, which is the physical, the poses. That's what we see everywhere. And that's what America loves to show. But a lot of yoga is how to live your best life and how to breathe through troubles and intensity and stress. And so when we think about being in a controlled environment like a studio, we can really shake things up for you through balance, even dimming the lights. And sometimes we'll ask people not to wipe their sweat, or sometimes we'll say, try to practice with your hair down today as an added distraction.
Oh God.
So yeah.
Or don't fix your shirt. I always want to pull up my pants or pull my shirt down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So sometimes we might add in some added distractions, and heat is one. You know, there's a lot of different things we can do. Balancing is one. If you're a first time student, you might think that balancing on one foot, that's a distraction. If you are a veteran student, we might, shut the lights off, or we might have you not wipe your sweat, something like that. So there's a lot of ways we can shake it up for you to keep you breathing and keep you practicing, because ultimately the whole goal of yoga, there's a lot of benefits, but for me mentally, what I'm trying to teach people to help them grow is, how can I throw them off today? And how can I teach them what they already have given to them to use as a tool to overcome this stuff? So there are so many pieces to it, but that's my biggest focus when I'm working with people, is the mental piece that helps them overcome anything outside of the studio. But then with it, they get strength, and they get feeling good in their back and their legs, and helping with sort of imbalances in their body too.
It's like throwing them out of their comfort zone and then teaching them how they can get control in these situations that they feel like they don't have control.
Yeah, and I noticed too, not only that, like, you, a big part of what you teach is turning inward. And sometimes starting the class with a word in mind, or a person in mind, or something like that. And it can be really emotional. Like I've had a few experiences in your classes where I am crying because you just flipped a switch with me, where I wasn't processing emotions. I wasn't thinking about what was really troubling me, or I had gone back to work after having a baby, and I was trying to have this brave face, and I got in your studio and just lost it in Shavasana.
I remember that, actually.
Yeah, I was a mess, but it's such a great practice, I think, to do in a studio, or to do at home, or to do in your room, or to do anywhere really. And I know that's something too that you do is every damn day. Your hashtag every damn day, yoga every damn day. And so I'm curious, what does that look like for you if you don't have an organized class, or, where do you fit it in?
Yeah. So yoga every damn day is actually Rachel Bratham. She's out of Costa Rica. She's known as the yoga girl. She was one of the biggest, the biggest girls that started this whole Instagram stuff with yoga. So it's probably the biggest yoga hashtag right now, yoga every damn day. So I used hers. So I use that. And my other big one is yoga everywhere, because I love to do it everywhere. So that's how I do it, literally. I bring it with me everywhere. That's sun salutation A, and we can kind of show you guys that again, but essentially it's a pump for your body. It's a pump up and down, up and down. You don't have to do the chaturangas. So I tell people, even in the middle of the day, just do that. Just start up and down, pumping your blood, let it go, let the oxygen go through. That's a simple one you can bring with you every day. But then there's a lot of it that the mental piece that I just bring with, that non-attachment that we talked about in the class earlier. So if you have thoughts come up in meditation, you can see them and feel them, but then let them go and don't identify with them anymore. So when something comes up, like when you're holding plank and you want to stop, what's going on in your head, acknowledge, and then detach from it. So there's a lot of pieces that we'll bring with us into our day-to-day life. And that's what's so magical about it all. Doing yoga actually makes you better at life. It's not just stretching. And so I just want to make sure I share that piece of it with the world. If there's one takeaway as far as the message is, like, don't think it's just stretching. Let it be so much more for personal growth than that.
And is it because you're turning inward and really learning how to control and detach from these emotions, and learning that you're not your thoughts, that you think it's so powerful?
I think it's that. And I think that just the practices. So even today when we started, or when you guys were going through hard times, I said, what will you come back to when things get hard? Like knowing before we even start this journey, it's going to get hard. Where will you go? So you pause and set an intention for your journey or whatever happens. So I think we just talked about two. We talked about detachment and then intention setting. Those two pieces. Those are just two of many pieces of yoga that you can bring with you into your day-to-day life. But the more you practice in a studio, in a safe environment, the more you can just naturally bring it with you anywhere you go. Like right here, we just centered. Before this, we set an intention for what we want it to look like or how we want it to be. And we get to have control. We don't have to have our life up to chance anymore.
Yeah.
So before any journey, we get to say, how do I want this to look?
Yeah.
And if you practice yoga every damn day, you'll start practicing that. And then you bring it with you.
Yeah. Well, when you were saying kind of getting emotional in Nicki's first class, it brought me back. So we did a class with Nicki before recording today, and it was
amazing.
Yeah, but it was, not only was it amazing, but it's the first time I've really moved my body like that since my procedure and going through everything with my leg and, my intention. And I got emotional just on the mat, just remembering what it's like to move my body like that, and just having deep gratitude for being able to move again. So it was learning, okay, I'm not these thoughts, I'm not this, but also having gratitude for what I can do and just allowing myself to simply be.
Yes.
And that is just powerful in itself. These such simple things have power. And when we can just let ourselves be.
Yes. And the thing with that is that we have a long life in front of us and lots of yoga. And so at some point in your exercise, in your yoga career, or your practice, I should say, you're going to have an injury or you're going to have something. And you're going to have to learn to deal with it at some point and mentally go through that. And so usually in yoga, we can keep practicing but you have to kind of get rid of the ego, which is a whole other piece of it,
Right.
And it's okay to still show up to yoga. And in fact, there are a lot of classes that you can explore the injury in and go slow and kind of see what tweaks, what hurts when you go a certain way and take it easy into that. So it is a story of life that we're going to not get out of this thing easy, the easy way always.
Well, I also think too, like yoga prevents injuries too.
Yes.
I feel like, I've been running a bunch of marathons, right? And I've had knee issues literally until I started yoga. And now it's like once a week. It's been once a week since you. Wow. That's it. I've never done anything more than that. But it's enough for me to challenge my muscles, flexibility, balance, and the strength that I get, that, knock on wood, I haven't had any injuries. I've been stronger than ever. And I just think that's so important because there's something about, for anybody that has not experienced yoga, I know it can be overwhelming, but when you get on the mat, there's something that awakens in you to just feel muscles that you have never even paid attention to. Mm-hmm. You feel tension in spots you didn't even know you had tension. Just get this awareness around, how my body is feeling. And there's something about that awareness and getting in tune with your breath that just makes you feel so powerful. It's like, why am I not doing this more? Why am I not caring for these muscles that are aching or are tense? Or, it's just, I think, a really good way to not only turn inward, because that's a huge part of it, but also just feel your body and where it needs some care or some stretching or some strength or something.
Yeah. And you can overcome anything with that breath again. The breath is like that the thing we talk about. We always say, take a deep breath, or, we always hear that, but we practice it so much. And the hard times and the easy times and the times you need focus and the times you need to be on, just like before this, And so, we just keep coming back to that over and over and over and over.
Thinking of different types of yoga, thinking about, okay, you're going to start yoga, you're going to get into this. Obviously, breath work, turning inward is going to be a part of all of them. But how do you know which one to start with? Like, how do you know I should sign up for this class? Like, I made a mistake. I sweat every second of my life, and I signed up for hot yoga for the first time. And it was like, I had to leave the room. I couldn't breathe. I was like, is there a water fountain? Is there a door? I need fresh air. I was dying. Worst idea ever, right? So I clearly signed up for the wrong class. Like, how do you know what class is a good place to start in?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of studios. So if you're looking at a boutique studio, like a yoga studio, a lot of them, if it has the capabilities of being heated, they're going to heat it usually. Now, something what we'll call all levels class. Typically it's less heated, but they still want to heat it a little bit if they have the capability. So I would say if you're brand new to yoga and you don't want heat, maybe try you could try a virtual class or something like that in your own home, so it's not as hot. Because that definitely does add a piece to it. It does. But going back to it, we can take all levels. So an all levels class isn't going to be as hot in any studio, even if it's a boutique studio where it's meant for yoga and we can heat it up to 105 degrees in some classes.
Oh, Lord.
Why is that?
It helps heat the body up. But again, it goes into the mental piece, the distractions, and really, really freaking hard. It's really hard when you're holding a posture for a minute and a half in one of the formats. That's what we do. We hold a really hard posture for a minute and a half and your sweat's in your eyes and you're trying to... And
you're shaking violently.
You're shaking. Yeah. It's a fun one. So if you're starting to try something online, or just trust yourself, go to a studio. Almost every single studio has an all levels class, and just ask the owners that. And people love bringing people into the yoga world. I promise you that. Just go and just trust yourself and know that, even like, I'll go from all different formatting because it's good to go into all different types. It's good to keep your body guessing. And the all levels ones tend to move really slow, but engaged. So sometimes when we think we are advancing ourselves, we tend to move too fast and then we feel less. Just like when we lift weights, and I know you know about personal training, when you go really fast, it's less, it's much easier sometimes, right?
Yep.
When we have to slow down, you feel more. And so it's same thing. So it is good for even advanced people to be in all levels classes, and so you feel more. I would definitely go there. And different formats. We've got there's so many different formats, and I think I said this, you guys. I have 9 different certifications ish. I think from acro to beer yoga that I learned in Mexico.
I want to try beer yoga.
We can.
Do you just hold it one hand the whole time?
We'll switch it around, but we'll like have chug pose. It's like chair pose, and you sit and like we'll do like a 4 count.
Can we do that after this?
We could try it. Yes.
Just to clarify, you said beer as in BEER.
Yeah.
Look for a beer yoga TikTok after this episode.
The long neck helps. I have had people try to drink it from a cup, but no one cares. Honestly, people get into postures a little easier after a beer. Everyone's doing crow pose.
I should have done beer yoga before hot yoga. I would have been a lot. I think too, I was thinking about, I'm already sweaty, and here I'm sweaty. Like, how many times can I grab my towel? Like, am I being disruptive? Because I'm like, I think it was just a bad way for me to start. But I would love to try beer yoga. So when you go to those resorts and you're teaching yoga, do they say you have to teach this kind, or are they like, we would like beer yoga today?
No, beer yoga is something because I've been teaching at resorts now for a while. So typically when you first go, they're going to be like, try to teach an all levels class because people are on the beach and a lot of times they're trying it new. But then you get to know the entertainment team and eventually you get to know like people want to have fun. And anyway, they're drinking on the beach with their margaritas and stuff. So then you kind of do it on the side. But you also give them a normal workout that morning.
It's more like a 3 p.m., 5 o'clock
it's like
somewhere.
Sunset. Yeah. My typical, because I go and I'll teach 1 or 2 classes a day. So I would still teach those and then do like a little bonus beer round or something. Not to get too much into the beer. So
Please do.
Okay. Just so you guys know, the beer stuff is a little controversial and I'm a little disruptive in the yoga world. People, I would say, sometimes traditional yogis don't love this, all these different fun, non-traditional variations to yoga. It gets a little bit of crap. We get crap for it. Yeah. But here's what it does is it brings people that would never do yoga into the studio.
Yeah.
And they love it. And then they trust me. And then I get to give them all the true benefits of it. And so we just have fun and I'm all about community. And so if you love healthy people and being around good people, and I always say this, people are working on themselves all the time in the yoga world, you know, in the health world as a whole, but in the yoga world, I don't very often meet like a bratty person or something. Yeah. They're so sweet usually.
Well, that's why you're here with us and why we are honored that you're with us and want you here. So thank
sweet.
you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So many good souls in the studios or around the studio.
There's beer yoga. There's all levels. Can you go into kind of the different types? Yeah. There's so many, but
there's so many. I'll give you kind of a high level of what you'll see around the Twin Cities or around the United States. A common one, a really popular one is yoga sculpt. And so we do heat that up to about in the 90s. It depends on the studio you're in. Pretty humid in there as well. So you'll incorporate weights with that. So you'll lift weights with yoga flow, a little bit of cardio, stretching at the end. Pretty fitness oriented, very intense. Hot 26, the one I mentioned, is where you hold like a minute and a half. That one's in 105 degrees. Ooh. And I'm not trying to scare people like this. There's a lot. And so if you've ever been to a class and you think yoga's too easy for me or something, because that's one of the things we hear a lot is like, I don't like yoga. It's too easy. Or it's just stretching and I'll do that in my own house or something. And then I just think they didn't go to the ones that I've been
or
to.
Have a good instructor. Because I think that is huge. I've been really blessed with you and Nellie, who is on another episode, like both of you. I can't imagine having a better instructor than either of you guys. And like you put so much thought into the music and what you say, and
it's an experience.
Yes.
Yeah, and it should be an experience because you guys come into the room and there's a lot of pieces to help people grow, and that's just our job. And I had a mentor actually a long time ago that said this to me. He comes up to me in the middle of class, and I think I told you guys I was working at, and we'll talk about the edge work a little bit here too, one of my favorite parts of yoga. But before I realized that I wasn't working my edge, I was being kind of easy on myself. And edge basically means that how hard on a scale, how hard are you working? And how much are you getting close to the growth, the good place where all the magic happens mentally and physically. And so I was living at about 80% where it's a safe place to be. It's kind of good, pretty good, but not where you're going to grow a whole heck of a lot. And so I was living there and I was in Texas, and I travel a lot and teach and take. And I was in Texas and I remember I was doing like a prayer twist, like a chair twist. And I'm kind of half-assing it. And, but I felt strong. I felt good. And this instructor comes over to me and he goes, "Let me help you grow." And then he's like, get your butt down and then fly your arms basically. And I thought, that is not what we're taught in yoga. We're taught to have people do what they want and what feels like their body thinks they should do. And from that moment, it hit me like, I need someone to help me grow. I'm not going to do it myself. And so then I started working this whole kind of, again, disruptive piece of yoga where it's maybe not listening to your body, especially not right away, pausing. And we talked about that. Non-reaction, we pause for a moment, make sure that's the right reaction, not the conditioned response to whatever's going on, and then make a conscious decision to move on. And if that's still wanting to take a break or get out or go easy on yourself, then
because when you're in that uncomfortable pose, everything in your body is saying, stop, leave, get off the mat, be done. And what you're saying is don't leave, stay there, breathe through it.
Take a few breaths.
Yes.
Well, that's your opportunity to really turn inward. Like you were saying earlier, your body wants the path of least resistance. And it's in that moment where the growth happens because you're forced to turn in and really question that conditioned response.
Yeah. And I said this to these guys when I was teaching them. I go, and this is what we say a lot. Yoga begins when you want to stop. Mentally, when you want to stop, and physically when you want to stop. And I use that in my own practice when I'm holding it. And I'm like, not today. I'm taking my knees. And I'm like, wait, yes, today. Damn it.
Why not today?
Why not today?
You're right.
So mentally, I've grown into this strong human by yoga. And I think that that's an opportunity for everyone. And I truly have passion. I went to quit my full-time job after 6.5 years if I didn't think I needed to share that with the world. And so it changes lives. And I really believe it changes lives, and for all different types of people, but especially I focus with athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious too. You were talking about the baseball player that was, I don't know if he was just in his head or what was going on, but I want to hear that story about how he was struggling and came to you. And
yeah, I had a mom call me actually, and she had 2 baseball players that were pretty skilled, and but they were in a hitting funk. And I said, yeah, let me work. They had a game that night. I said, I'll work with them for an hour or something. And we went to the park and we worked. And we did some other things, but we pretty much did breath work, honestly, for a very long time. And then I just taught them, before you go up to hit, the coach and everyone will say, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. And I said, I want you, when you're in the dugout, even before you get into your, what is it, pre-hitting little circle thing, the warm-up round.
on deck.
On deck, yes.
I don't know either.
I should know this.
I just go to the baseball games for the beer and the brats.
You can be doing your beer yoga now in the corner.
Yeah.
Yes. So I teach them in the dugout that you're going to start your breath work then. So you're starting to breathe way before. And these kids, I just promise them, because I'm that sure, I'm that confident. I look at them and I'm like,
And what does that look like when you tell them to breathe?
So it's usually I might have them close their eyes wherever they can get comfortable. Sometimes put their hands in an athletic position, a comfortable athletic position. You could be sitting with bent knees, forearms, and kind of head down. Anything, laying down, whatever they feel comfortable. If they're around their buddies, they might just close their eyes. But usually at a certain level, like at the high school level, these athletes really trust, and they know, because Olympic athletes, and they know a lot of the really famous athletes, they get elite some way through mental work and breath control. And so they trust that. And so usually if you get captains involved, the whole team will follow. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So he worked on breath work, and I got a text that night from the mom saying he hit a home run. And I was just like, I don't know if I can take credit for that, but I'm so proud.
I bet too. And to show him like you have control, and sometimes you just need to switch things up. You need variety. You need to turn inward and relax. Sometimes it's just relaxing and just knowing I'm totally capable. I can use this breath to get me to a place where I feel confident, or whatever you're kind of looking for before you're up to bat. I don't know.
Well, and even not for athletes, but we know that the subconscious mind, the intuitive mind, is much more intelligent than the thinking mind. Much like by far more. And so what we can do is we can calm the thinking mind and let the intuitive mind come up. And so we see that with creative people a lot too. They need to, before a big a creative session, a writer or a musician like my son is, who writes music, we might have them meditate a little bit, clear their mind, and then the creative juices come up. We call that the zone again, right? Or working that edge and learning how to deal with that. And yeah, it's fascinating. It helps any type of person overcome anything. I tend to talk a lot about athletes because I was an athlete, but I also have a 6-year-old. I have all different ages. I've worked with 5 and 6, 7, 8. I've worked with 8th grade athletes and all different. I've worked at high schools or elementary schools. So it's really for everyone.
Yeah. That's cool too that your son is learning that through you. And as a creative person, I mean, anybody that I look up to in the self-growth world, entrepreneurs, athletes, anybody that I find that, what do they do? I want to emulate what they're doing. They all meditate. They all have a practice. Usually it involves yoga too. It's wild. It's like, there's something to this.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious because I'm really looking into that right now. And a lot of the people I'm following, they all kind of have their own approach to it and what they think is best, right? So the 4x4 or breathe in for 6, hold for a certain amount. So when you're teaching these athletes or really anyone, is there a certain process that you follow or that you find the best luck with?
In the yoga world, we use what we call an Ujjayi breath. I call it a victory breath because it's victorious over pretty much any stress or that thinking mind that can be so dangerous to us. And so it's essentially lips sealed, breathing through your nose. And then you can still do the 4 square. Is that what it's called? 4 square? Yeah, I'm familiar with that one, with the lips sealed. But it's 3 to 5, 6, depending on your capacity. Sometimes in the beginning, I'll have people do as deep as you can to just get your breath going and get your lungs. Because again, just like our body's capacity, there's so much of us, we only use a certain percent of our lungs. We use a certain percent of our brain. And so we can go beyond that. So I usually have people breathe deeply to kind of utilize parts of their lungs that they aren't used to, and then take control, a very controlled breath.
Yeah.
In and out through the nose. We can practice it together.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Okay, so let's practice it together. So seal your lips. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And then drag it out through your nose. Awesome. Let's try that again. Breathe in through your nose. Let it travel down your throat, into your belly. And then back up your throat and out your nose. So you can take that as slow or as fast as you want, to be honest. In fact, some of my more athletic power yoga, we call that, power yoga, you'd go pretty swift. Like,
so you recommend out through the nose, not out through open mouth.
Yeah,
Why
out
is
through the
that?
nose. Parasympathetic nervous system calms you down. Focus. You're familiar with that, right? We talked
The
about
vagus
that.
nerve, yes.
Yes. Well, also,
I saw your eyes light up.
a lot of people, when they're stressed, they're like, I want to know how to manage stress. I'm like, well, do you have any techniques in place right now? They're like, no, I don't even know how to manage stress. I'm like, let's start with breathing. Literally, if you just sit and you do 4x4 breath work, breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 4, keep exhaling for another 4. It can do so much to your body. Like, it reduces your blood pressure, you know, and can totally be just a small little short reset midday at work when you have a ton going on or something in life happens. It's like your breath is that life force to just kind of get you back to that centered place.
It is. And you know what's getting back to, if you want to work out, there's fitness type yoga, but here's what's cool about breath is, like, a lot of us busybodies, it's hard for us to stop and breathe, right? I think even we know the concept sounds good and we know meditation's good, but to stop and do that, it seems non-productive, right? Even though we know that it's not, it feels like that. And so what we know about yoga, even the super athletic types yoga to the yin yoga, which is more relaxing and holding postures on the floor a long time, we know that it's a moving meditation. And so you're getting your workout while you're breathing. And so it feels like we're multitasking, and we are kind of, right? We're moving meditation, we're breathing. And again, we take that concept with us, because then when we're in stress outside of the studio, we learn to breathe while we're cleaning or whatever we do.
Yeah.
We can do that too. So then we don't have to stop, although meditating and stopping is a whole different, really great thing to do, but we can breathe while we're going through everything we're going through.
All right. So following you on social media, I love it, because you are just a light, and you talk about igniting your light. You talk about good vibes. You talk about all of these things and I think of you as a light, like just even looking at you, you are just a bright light, but that's hard. I mean, you're a mom and you're balancing a lot, and there's obviously stressors that happen. Life happens, you know. How do you have that in you? Or, like, have you always been this way?
I think that I have been this way because the people around my mom and other people have taught me this, but it is something that it can be taught. And I think the main thing that helps me, I think, and I had to think about this a little bit, but I think the main thing that helps me feel like I have that good energy or that light that people talk about, that I do hear that sometimes. So thank you. But I got to thinking about it, because I feel when I practice gratitude, I was like grateful. I'm like, gosh, I'm grateful for this today, because I feel like it's a gift. And I got to thinking about it. And I think it's because I surround myself with good things, good people, good colors, good music. To the point where I don't watch bad movies. And you know what? My son doesn't either. My son won't watch. We watch funny things and good things. And there's enough normal life that gets hard, as we know. And so I have good playlists. I have everything happy. In fact, I've been told I'm 2 in the happy world, rainbows and butterflies. People be like, rainbows and butterflies. I'm like, nope, stay away with your negativity.
Get out.
Yeah. And so it's boundaries around that for sure. But but that's all I just really want. It's natural. I gravitate towards the good stuff.
That's so interesting because I wasn't brought up that way. Like I was brought up like the scary movies are on, the negative
Drama.
talk. Yeah, like it's around and it's visible, and I love watching scary movies. But now I'm like, well, what is that doing to me?
Well, I think it just shows you have a choice. Like you said, with setting those boundaries, and it's taking control and ownership that no, I don't have to let that negative energy in.
Yeah, I do believe it sticks with you a little bit. I think, and we talk about vibes, and I was thinking a lot about that. And a vibe is something that makes you feel. A good vibe is something that makes you feel good in the presence or after you're done. Good vibe music makes you feel good, right? Good vibe people make you feel good.
It's so simple.
It's very simple.
So simple. Like why are we complicating it?
I don't know.
Just breathe, and just exit the negativity.
Good vibes only. I should have wore my shirt. It says good vibes only. It's so kind of Nicki.
The gold looks good on you.
Yeah, thanks. It's so Nicki to have a shirt like good vibes only.
So when you're struggling with, maybe negative people or hard times, how do you ignite that light back on?
Yeah. So I think my biggest go-to has always been the studio. And these guys briefly know my mom passed away about a year and a half ago now. And yeah, I got back into the studio pretty quickly after that. It was traumatic and it was quick. The death was, but I think that within a week and a half, I think I went back, and the studio is my people. And so I knew I needed to be back in the studio and with everyone that I loved in that really happy environment. And so again, that's the good stuff. And so I knew I had to be around that in hard times. Daily, if I have struggles, honestly, like we all do, I go to the things I love. And I've always had, I would make a list of things that make me happy, the good shit kind of thing, or good stuff. If you have to edit
You can
that.
say shit. It's okay. Okay. I say shit a lot.
In with the good shit. And so I have a list of things that I love, and it's like I love bikinis. I love boho outfits. Like I love beaches. I used to love coffee, but now I drink protein shakes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I go to all the things that I love a lot, and I just, if I'm having a hard time, I usually like Pinterest boho outfits or bikinis, or like start dreaming. I'll go to my my vision board, and I'll dream of waking up to coffee over the ocean or something.
Oh,
and so
I like that.
Yeah, I just have my dreams, and I start thinking about them when I feel sad.
It's knowing what is going to make you feel good and going back to that.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to the awareness, and it's what do you even like? What is true to you? What makes you feel good? And I think that's a really good starting point.
But it's a hard hump to get over. Like, you know, you're talking about your mom, and obviously there's going to be this time where it's hard to make that move. Like, how do you even find the energy when you're so low to get to the studio, you know? And I think having those lists sometimes, just something to go back to be like, I don't even know what I like. I don't even want to do anything. And sometimes one thing on that list feels doable. You know, one thing feels like, okay, I can shower. I like hot showers. I always feel better after a shower. Just get in the shower, you know? Yeah.
And some of it is, again, that practice of non-attachment. And so if you're feeling bad, it's saying, I feel kind of off today, or I feel anxious today, but I'm not attaching to that anymore. And that's actually one thing that I had to learn, because I was kind of a victim to my own mind for quite some time. I'd be like, no, I'm feeling this way, so I'm just this is how I am, or today's this day, I'm this way this day. And kind of through yoga and other self-help improvement, I learned that is a choice. Again, we talked about that, but being intentional. So I feel, and then I practice non-reaction. I'm like, God, I feel off. I feel a little anxious today, but I'm like, I'm going to choose to not be that way. But it's not that different than holding plank and saying, I feel off. This is hard. I feel like my arms are burning, but am I going to choose to take my knees, or I'm going to choose to do something positive and grow towards that? And so it's a lot of correlations that we don't always talk about as teachers, but you're getting that benefit when you come in the room. Like, I'm not going to explain to always all the benefits of everything that you're going to get when you come into the studio, but I can promise you there's hundreds.
Right.
And that's like one that it's not always talked about, but you're going to learn how to come back and overcome anything like that.
Yeah. I think something that you said that really stood out to me that I've been working on is the difference between I feel and I am, right? It's like I'm feeling anxious, but I'm not anxious. And that's kind of practicing that dissociation, or
the detachment.
Yeah. And also I think awareness and attachment are two separate things that it took me a long time to figure that out. And acknowledging it and knowing, okay, that it's there and feeling it to heal it first.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And then being like, okay, I'm going to choose how to move forward.
Yep.
I'm acknowledging what's going on in my head, but ultimately I have the choice with what I do with that. And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying about the good wolf, bad wolf. Maybe you want to share that story with us, because that's something that I think a lot about too.
Yes. I believe we looked it up, and it's a Cherokee tale. It's an old tale, but there's something that when we talk about keeping the good around her, I say good vibes, which is a little cliche these days or whatever. But the truth about it is I do tend to keep good things around me. And when we think about the story of the old tale of the good wolf and the bad wolf. And so this little boy asks his grandpa, geez, there's a fight inside me. There's the good things that I'm thinking about. And then there's like the ego and the despair and these kind of darker things. And so the grandpa says, yeah, there's two wolves that live in each of us, and they're fighting each other, the good and the bad. And the little boy asked the grandpa, well, which one wins? And he said, the one that you feed. And so in this, and if you haven't heard that yet, look it up. It's amazing. Or they'll put the link in there for you. But it's a fairly popular quote, but we think about feeding the good wolf. And so the things that you can do, all the good things, the good vibes, the things that watching the good movies, the listening to the good music, being around good people, whatever it is for you. Maybe it is the coffee or the bikinis or whatever that is, but keeping the good things in front of you and then trying to keep boundaries around the bad stuff. And we know that like healthy behavior is contagious. We know happy behavior is contagious. There's a lot of this stuff. And so that's probably the biggest thing I live by, is the good wolf, bad wolf thing, and staying good around good people and being around good energy.
Yeah. Well, even just the examples that you gave, there's so many things you can do, things that are free, looking up on Pinterest or even who you follow on social media, all these little nuggets that, it doesn't have to be hard, and we overcomplicate it.
Find what you love, even it's the tiniest little things.
Right.
And what makes you feel good. When I think about yoga, I just leave feeling so good. And like, I know who I am and feeling like I'm in control.
Yeah. And it's going back to too, like you were saying with, you've got to turn inward during it, because there are feelings that sometimes you don't even realize that you haven't processed yet. Sometimes it comes out in the mat. And I think that's something that's so powerful, is that you don't realize, if you haven't done yoga, what's going to happen when you get on that edge, that uncomfortable feeling of overcoming that. It can totally waterfall into all kinds of things for the rest of your day.
It does. It opens the door. It does. It's quite often that the newer practitioners to yoga will cry. It's real common. It's in Shavasana in the end. That's common. I will say that when I was practicing after my mom passed, that is the moments that I lost it again. And because it's a vulnerable place to be in. That's when you start kind of feeling it super deeply. If there's anything that's going on, you're going to feel it. And people might say, why? I don't want to feel it. But you literally won't feel good unless you do. You can't move past it unless you acknowledge things. It's just the self-awareness. You have to. You have to feel it to heal it.
I was just going to say that. Yes, I love that.
You just do.
You do.
Dang it.
You really do. It has been life-changing for both Andrea and I, which is why we are really, really excited to announce that we're going to hold a virtual workout with Nicki. Yes. She's going to lead it, and she's going to walk us through all different types. So if you're kind of like, I don't really know, maybe I'd want to do more fitness, maybe I want to do more all level, we're going to kind of give you a taste of it all.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a taste of 3 to 4 types of yoga, maybe more. I haven't designed the class yet, but I'll get you guys a good sample of, like, if you go to a studio, the types, the most 3 to 4 common types you might see around here.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what you would want to do, to pick moving forward. So look out, more information on that. We'll have it all on our socials. But very, very exciting, and definitely a great way to start the new year. And we'll have a month in of the new year. We'll get you guys feeling nice and strong and centered. And it'll be amazing. Well, Nicki, we just want to thank you so much for being with us today and flowing with us and walking us through an incredible workout, and want to be mindful of your time and our listeners' time. Is there anything that you want to share with our guests? Any last wrap up?
I think the biggest thing that it just clicked in my mind too is that the most common you're going to see around here of yoga is you'll hear power yoga and yoga flow, which essentially are both fitness-oriented yoga. And so when you go to a studio, that's what you're going to find. I just wanted to clarify that. It's real common in America. You're going to hear power yoga, which is essentially any fitness-oriented yoga. And then vinyasa is trying to connect a breath to movement. So power yoga could technically be Sculpt yoga with the weights and stuff, okay? It gets a little confusing. I'm happy to do question and answers, or if people want to message me at any time, I'm happy to always answer questions and DM
and where
me.
can everybody find you? You know, if they do go on social media, where can they find you?
Lemon Yoga, Lemmon. Lemon's my last name. So Lemmon Yoga on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. Awesome.
Perfect.
Yes.
And we will share everything with you on all social media.
All right. Now it's time for our 3 gold stars.
I love it. Okay. So the first one's going to be, try that 45-minute class. If you're just getting into yoga, just try, we'll give you the sample. So try that. And then the other one is, try to learn about, I would say the other takeaway would be try to learn how you are in moments of intensity, which is what I did when we practiced with you guys. I hope that they can see these guys struggle a little bit. I put them through some hard times, but the purpose of that was to see how they handle intense situations. And so for you, I would say to try to like hold plank way longer than you want, maybe forearm plank, and get uncomfortable, and then see when you stop. And if that was at your max, or if you push too hard. Some people push so hard they hurt themselves. Some people give up way too soon. And some people are kind of in this middle place is where I live. So I think that's really important to find out where your, what we call edge is. And then the other one is, just feed the good wolf. Just be around the good people, the good stuff, and the good music, and the good colors, and all the good stuff.
Fill your cup up with good.
Yes.
All right. Next segment is called Unleashing Ivy. So these are our rapid fire questions. So 3 questions. First thing that comes to mind can be a word, can be a phrase, whatever comes
to you.
There you go.
Yeah, right. What's one thing you do to center yourself?
Breathe.
Easy
Always.
enough.
Yeah.
Breathe.
It's that simple, people.
In through your nose, out through your nose.
All right. When you're really struggling to be positive, what's one thing that steers you in a positive direction?
Bikinis.
I love it. All right. And last one. What's one thing you wish you would have known sooner?
I think one thing I wish I would have known sooner would be to get into a posture that a teacher is going to give you a template or what it looks like, but then to know that you can adjust it for yourself, make it your own. For so long, I did postures textbook because I'm kinesiology background. So that's very alignment based, this is the way. But what you learn is that I didn't even feel half of, like my hips, I've been doing pigeon pose for 5-6 years now, and they're not getting like less until I started saying, I have to lean a little bit, or I have to move my, you have to adjust things so you feel it. And so oftentimes when I teach too, I'll tell people, I'm like, can you feel this here? Or can you feel this here? Because if you're not, I want you to move a little bit in your own body, because our bodies are very different. We're not textbooks, really.
Right.
We're not stick figures.
That's right.
And that's true for anything in life.
It is.
Figure out what works for you.
Right.
And what's true for you.
Take it outside of the studio.
Yes.
Well, before we jump into our piece of gold and leave you guys with our gold, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us on all socials. We'll be posting about our free workout, so stay tuned for that. And please share Ivy Unleashed with anyone you know that could be inspired by some of our information, could use some health and wellness tips. And Nikki, thank you again so much. You have been such a light.
Namaste.
Well, our piece of gold is brought to you by the Old Cherokee Trail. And it is, there are 2 wolves and they are always fighting. One is darkness and despair. The other is light and hope. Which one wins? The one you feed.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.